This is Maureen Lippe. I am founder and chairman of Lippe Taylor. I'm so happy that you're joining us today, but I'm even more thrilled that I have my good buddy and really good friend and former colleague with me, Barri Rafferty, who is head of communications and brand management at Wells Fargo. Barri, it is so good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. I can't believe it's been 2 years and we've talked, but we haven't really seen one another, which is really hard for me not to see you. It's been way too long, but certainly it's been a crazy ride. God, nobody could imagine that we would have so much uncertainty and fear in the last 2 years between lost jobs and, just everything that's been going on in not only our work lives, but also in our personal lives at home. And certainly you got such a really important job and so much responsibility at Wells Fargo. And I too, at Lippe Taylor, I had so many people just hoping that we make the right decisions, that we, were able to imbue trust and respect and understanding, all those good things that people need during a time like this. I guess it's really empathy and kindness and making really choice decisions. But as you and I have talked about, what does leadership look like post-pandemic? And of course, the thing that's on everybody's minds is the big return. Well, how do we return? What is the best way? What's going to work out? So I'm just so happy that I have this chance to talk to you because it's very convoluted and people are really concerned with how it's all going to net out. And unfortunately, nobody has the answer. We're all in this together. Some people have made initial decisions, but I would say whatever any company is going to do, they need to do it fast and they need to let their people know soon because we're all concerned. But a couple of questions that I want to jump into to get your take on, and then I'll talk a little bit about, my feeling about it. But I really want to get your take because you represent so many people at Wells Fargo and have so many big decisions to make. But with staff working from home for almost 2 years now, leadership is probably more difficult than it's ever been. How do we keep employees engaged? How do we maintain that strong culture that makes them feel like they belong to an important company? And Barri, I'm just curious as to what you've seen and what we're thinking about to keep your employees engaged. Would just love to get a sense. I mean, certainly empathy and leadership with empathy is important and communicating is important, but what other things are you seeing that is helping you keep the staff together and feeling like you're committed to them, as is the company?
We've had so many discussions about that, Maureen, in-house as well, right? And the question is, it is the great quit, the great reshuffle, whatever you call it. And so we've talked about a couple things. One is what we call stay interviews, is how do you really spend time with people, understanding their career goals, and can we make opportunities and create opportunities? Sometimes that's learning and developing new skills that they want to learn. Sometimes it's changing their job in-house. I'm thrilled to say a lot of our open positions this past year have gone almost half to internal candidates. So we're moving people around to create opportunity. And then we're also going back and returning to office in a much more hybrid, flexible manner. And I think that working with people, we do believe at Wells Fargo, there's a lot of value for being together and spending time and collaborating. And the fact that you and I haven't seen each other for 2 years, right? We miss that human interaction and ability to create together and do things together. But we also all have embraced this ability to work from home and be really productive from home and have some of that flexibility. And so I think to create that right combination is going to be critical as people return, to make sure that you're creating individual, personalized career maps for people to build their career and do things in unique ways that are going to keep them engaged. But it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And I think if our people feel like our brand has a purpose, I think that's really important. They feel like they belong to a company that's really important, that sense of belonging. I also think that as a part of leadership at Lippe Taylor, what we're trying to do is make sure that the leadership team really communicates very closely with the staff. We have lots of meetings. We have staff meetings every other week. Just that, I think connecting is just so important. I think also not looking at our people just from a work perspective, but from what are the family constraints? What are they living with? What is life like? And really, if we're communicating properly, we know what's going on. And as we always say, take care of yourself, but take care of each other. I mean, I think that is so important. With so many employees resistant, there's a lot of employees that just do not want to go back to the office. How do we navigate it properly so we keep people excited and we make sure that many of them are excited and want to rejoin their colleagues. They want to go back to work. I would say it's probably, 50-50 people that want to go back versus people that really want to work from home. And I understand both sides, and there is no answer, but we'll figure it out. Again, as I said, we're in it together. Yeah. But how do we do that? How do we make both sides feel like they're being heard and they're pretty much getting what they want? I think, as an industry, we're very hardwired to be together, to collaborate on strategy, on creative, on innovation, all those things that drive our industry. But how do we really appease those people that, no, I have to work from home. I don't want to commute. Commuting is so much a part of people not wanting to come back to work. How do we kind of instill in them the trust and to come back or not come back, as the case may be? But clearly everybody wants more people to come back. So what are the answers? What are you thinking?
So some of the things we're thinking about, one is we're being very careful to say it's return to office because people have been working the whole time, right? So back to work it's almost like, oh, I'm killing myself even when I'm at home. So I think some of the nomenclature is going to be key. But we're also talking a lot about when you ask people to be in the office, then what are the things that are happening that enable that collaboration, right? We're creating more open workspaces and what we're calling neighborhoods. So people actually work with across public affairs, which is our team. You will be with government relations and community relations and people you might not have sat with before, in more settings that enable work together and meetings. But we're also saying when people come in and you ask them to come in, then make sure those days are days when there is interaction and there is reasons to be in that office. And some of that may be social, some of that may be business, things that you can do as you're talking about creative brainstorming, strategy sessions, right? Things like that. Because I think the worst thing to do is have people come in and then they sit in their cubes and are back on Zoom every day. And they're saying, why was it worth the commute for me, right? So I think making that conscious effort as teams are thinking about what do those days look like when people are in, and how do you decide, or I decide, here's the days of my week. For me, I'm going to stack up because I have meetings in New York with maybe some of our agencies and some of our vendors and some of my people. And so it makes it a fully stacked day to be in and fully engaged, and hopefully a dinner or lunch with you on that day, right? So we're in the city and making those worthwhile. And then there's other days I might stack my calendar to really be more of a work from home day. And there are things that I can do with people all over the country and more remote. And then I think the other thing is going to be to continuing to find that right mix of in-person and technology so that if there are people working from home, they're still included and they feel part of it, because there's some worry that some of the people that come in might have an advantage over the people that decide not to come in as much, right? So how do you make sure that as people are sitting in different places that we continue to be inclusive and allow people to bring their full selves to work, no matter what the day is and where they're sitting on that particular day?
Right. I think what you said about making sure when people come in, whatever the schedule is, because every company is going to do it differently, just making sure that we're using them, we're connecting them. They're in important meetings. And also, I think it's important that the company know who's in every day. Some are predicting, Barry, that there will be a bias against those people who remain at home. I mean, we know that has happened in the past with moms, but versus those who rejoin to collaborate in person. How do leaders today, how do we engage and motivate our people? it's just really an extension of what we were discussing, but how do we really make sure that we keep people engaged when they come in? I mean, you talked about making sure that we have important meetings. I think check-ins are so important, and making sure that people are constantly engaged. I think also, if we're doing great work, I think people are going to want to come in more, particularly if you're working with creative teams, which Wells Fargo, of course, and Lippe Taylor are doing. I think just feeling that there's inclusivity is so important, that people are listening to them when they come in, that they have a voice. All of those things, hopefully, will help. We have, I'm sure you do too, a number of ERGs, which have been very successful. But of course, you can do those remotely, or you can do them in person. But teams are getting so close now. I think they're wanting to come in and meet some of the people that they haven't even met before is so important.
Yeah. We have a ton of people that have been hired like me and never been in offices, right? I mean, I've been in some, but we have people that haven't been. So I think, we're looking at evolving our mentorship programs. We have over 5,500 people in the company being mentored. So how do those relationships evolve and, create those experiences as we get back to events and experiential and in-person team meetings and management meetings and company-wide meetings and town halls? We're hoping to have more of those in person so people can actually meet our senior leadership more in person as they travel from office to office and spend time in places. And I think that the other piece of this, is really creating career maps for people and opportunities for them to experience. Maybe it's being, coached by somebody that they haven't worked with, or getting on an integrated team on a campaign. That could be something new, where they meet people cross-functionally across the organization. So I think making really conscious effort to find that connectivity and find connection points for people that align with where they want to go with their careers in the next year is going to help people really stay engaged. And then, as you said, we've got to make it a place where people can bring their full selves to work and people feel safe. And I think, if anything, the past couple of years, that empathy and safety and feeling like leaders are looking out for their people. And, we were back to office, and then Omicron hit and we went back to home because it was more important for us to keep our people safe. And I think as leaders, creating that environment where you can, have candor and make them feel safe is going to continue, because I don't think this is gone forever. I think we're going to have in and out and bouts of things in the years to come, unfortunately.
I fear you're right. I think empathy, kindness, listening are all those things that people need so badly. And they need to know that their company really cares about them, but cares about the whole person. We were very concerned early on when the pandemic first started, and we could sense that particularly a lot of our young people were having a difficult time, living in New York City in a 500 square foot apartment, can't see parents, can't see grandparents. We initiated a therapist program. We had 2 or 3 therapists. We still actually do, who people could call 24/7 if they were in trouble. And I just think, as leaders, we have to be worried about the whole person. It's not just what they can bring to the office and the great work they're doing, but how are they feeling emotionally? All of those things are so important. So I think empathetic leadership today is critical.
I love that you're touching on mental health, because I think that's something that's even become, during the pandemic, people have been more open with that support. And, we've all had to build more grit and resilience during this time. But that also, to me, means more self-care, right? And it's important for leaders to take that time out to find ways to ground yourself, because there is that stress and day in and day out, and the overriding health stress and everything else. So I know for me, I try to do more yoga. I'm learning meditation. I'm not great at it, but I'm working at it. Sometimes it might mean a hot bath or journaling, or just even getting outside. I know you're down in Florida right now, walking on the beach or in the woods. It's just finding those outlets too, to keep your own balance is really important for leaders, because I just think the drain of all of this is just intense.
I agree with you. And we have initiated a number of things. Like, there are 3 days during the week where you have to unlock. You just have to get off. Nobody can call you. It's and it really works. And we demand that people just unhook and unhinge and just try to just relax. You can take vacation whenever you want. The policy now is if you need a mental health day or any kind of a day, you just do it. We also initiated the Calm app for everybody, and they're using it. I find myself using
I
it
love
too.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I would, but I am. Anyway, we've heard a lot about the Great Resignation. I am so tired of hearing about it. Fortunately, at Lippe Taylor, we've been very lucky. We have not seen it, and we've hired over 100 people this year, which is really frightening because many of us haven't even met, even though we try to bring everybody in. I mean, offices all over the country in at least 4 times a year, and everybody loves that. I don't know if it's going to continue 4 times a year, depending on, but again, just that feeling of connecting. But so the Great Resignation, how do we recruit and retain and onboard key talent, but how do we keep them motivated today, and how do we keep them from leaving because they see career opportunities in other places? How do we make sure they see what's going on at our companies and feel that the work is great, that we're winning business, that they're a part of it? We have really enhanced the team for new business. We have a lot of junior people that they always wanted to get involved in the new business process. Now we have anybody that wants to get involved, and they get points for it. And it just, again, it's that feeling that leadership is not, this remote group of people. We're in their face. We are really connecting a lot with them. So I just wondered what you're thinking, and also how do we do it fast? So people that feel stretched and are covering for other team members who may have moved on, and we're just trying to fill the gaps because it's so competitive. As you know, the salaries that people are throwing out there for people, the competition is fierce. We're all competing for the same people. So how do we retain talent and really successfully keep it? I mean, I think we've been discussing it a little bit, but I think dedication to diversity and the whole DEI mission is so important for all of us. I mean, doing things that people feel, boy, this company has a real purpose is really, really important.
Wow.
And then supporting their mental and physical well-being, which we just discussed, is so important. And we're initiating a lot of employee-led activations. If you want to start an ERG, or if you want to do an Ask Me Anything, which I try to do a couple of times a quarter, which is so much fun. What's on your mind? Ask me anything. And we're encouraging more of our people to do that, particularly our leadership team. Just would love to get your thoughts about really the retention issue.
Yeah. So
and the Great Resignation. Is it real?
Yeah, it is real. Unfortunately, we're seeing more turnover, and we're also opening, like you, a lot of positions and hiring a ton of people at Wells Fargo. And so I think, a couple things, like you said, it's, one is giving people real opportunities to do something different. And I feel like here, we're turning around an iconic American brand, and people are excited to join, but the competition is fierce, and we're having to are competitive in terms of compensation. We're having to, like you, really focus. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right, is critical to us as it is to you. And I think for me, the last year, as we've made a lot of hires here, I've made a really conscious effort to make sure my leadership team is truly diverse. Every interview slate is diverse in terms of the candidates, but also the interviewers. So we make sure people feel welcome and really see themselves in our organization and want to join. We also have a great program that I'm really proud of that's called the Glide program. And Maureen, we know so many women have had to leave the workforce for so many different reasons. And our Glide relaunch program is actually for anyone that's been working for 7 years, but out of the workforce for 2 years or more, to help them re-enter. So that's the eligibility. You come in as an intern and then hopefully transition to full time. So sometimes it's helping us mentor to rebuild some skills that you might have in a gap, but also to make sure we're not looking at that absence as an issue on your resume, but that it's welcome, that we know these times have brought, different pulls, and people have had to be there for children and families and other things, and we don't want to hold that against people. So I think having a definitely open mind about people's resumes and what might have been, a resume gap today is just something that you take into account and say, that's fine, come back in, we're going to welcome you because we know you have those great skill sets. And there's a few technology things we might need to tweak and help you to update on, but we don't want to hold that against you. And I think that's something I'm really proud of, as we're looking at those candidates through a different lens and helping them to re-enter where they might have been out of the workforce for several years.
Well, I think that's such an important issue because so many women did drop out during COVID. So how do we make sure that we through kindness and empathy and have all the things that they need and give them the schedules that they want, how do we bring them back? I see it as a great opportunity for us. We have a lot of women at Lippe Taylor. So we see this as a good thing. I think we've really got to lean into defining what their purpose is, as well as the company. What is it that they're looking for? And just for them to know that they're appreciated, and they feel fulfilled in every aspect of their lives, not just at home, but also at work. Another question, Barry, is how do leaders really maintain the culture and build teams while working virtually? I mean, it's really hard. There's so many things you can do, but I think a lot of us got so caught up in just trying to do good work, do all the new business that's coming our way as an industry. It's hard. So how do we maintain the culture? Because if you're working remotely, because some of the people we hired, they don't even know what Lippe Taylor is. They don't know the great company they've just joined, or if it's Wells Fargo. So they feel, they just feel disconnected. So how do we really, how do we change the perception of the company? How do we build on the culture? Are there new practices that maybe you've adopted during the pandemic? I think many people have, and if they haven't, they're remiss. I think we just have to change how we look at all people coming into the company, but particularly making sure that women feel that they belong to a company. That's really important, and they belong to an important culture. I think for women, a culture with purpose is just so important. So how do we make sure that their voices are heard in feedback, that they feel listened to, that they just feel that they're in the right culture? Because I think culture, not only for women, but for men as well, is important. Just curious what you're doing to make everybody feel that this is the culture that I have never found before, and I'm staying. Because culture will keep people.
Yeah, right, for sure. I think, one of the things I say to leaders is you set the weather every day. And even though we're on Zoom, people can tell when you're in a good mood and your energy is there, or when you're not, right? You feel it even through the screen. And sometimes emoting through the screen is even harder, I think, than in person, because you don't feed off that energy of others. So I think that's important. I do a lot of skip level meetings with different people. I have breaks with Barry where different people have a chance to meet me, and it's like a coffee clutch on Zoom. And connecting people around the world and around the US, even on our teams that might not know each other, to spend time, and we have casual conversations, a little bit of like the Ask Me Anything, so that they can get to know each other and get to know me as a leader and as a person, not just as somebody that's at the top of the organization. So that's really important. I think that having our leaders do listening tours. We do a lot of employee surveys and focus groups, and really our leadership teams tries to listen to what we're hearing and bring some of those things. And sometimes that might be less Zoom meetings. So we actually canceled some meetings last year and said, okay, let's streamline and do less meetings. We tried to do some fun things, and during the holidays had carolers where people could bring their families and listen and engage, and we sent cookies to everyone's home and coffee. So that their families could participate in a fun holiday gathering at the end of the year, and pets and cats and dogs and everything else, right? And I think seeing that we've embraced kind of everyone's whole home, if you will, right? It's no longer if a baby cries or a dog barks or whatever. I mean, all of that has shifted. And I think those are good things, right? We're not expecting the perfect and everything is silent and you're suited up anymore. It's like, fine, if you show up in your sweats or one day have a hat on. And, I think we've all brought down some of those barriers to being more casual and engaged and seeing people in their full selves. And I hope that doesn't go away. I think that just because we come back in person doesn't mean you shouldn't expose the people you work with to some of those, pieces of your life that do interrupt your work life every day and will continue to. And that's important.
It's very important. To your point, I think people are more connected at companies than they were before, and on a more personal level. A grandmother passes away. So, I heard a statistic that there's over 60,000 children returning to school who have lost a parent. Just again, we were talking about the fear and the uncertainty. It's just there. It's with all of us. I know it's with you. It's with me. We just can't get away from it. So, just bringing that again, that empathy and that sense of purpose to the office, and the sense of really wanting to know what's happening in your life. How are you really feeling? What's happening at home? All of those things, I don't think we can just say it often enough. I think also onboarding is so important. We've hired so many people that are not coming into the office, many in other cities. How do we onboard them in a way that they really feel, I have just joined something so special. I love this company. We're doing yearbooks, which are really fun each year, hardbound yearbooks with.
Oh, I love it. Throwback.
A real throwback. As you said, those initiatives that bring us together. We're communicating in a way that we never did before. And as you said, I hope we keep those things, because they're not everything was fear and loathing with regards to the pandemic. I think a lot of good things have happened as well for people, but also for companies. As leaders, we're also, you and I and other leaders are just so stretched, trying to maintain our own morale and courage and purpose during these unusual times. How do we stay positive and optimistic? What do we, because that's so important. Because if we're not feeling it, it's going to be really hard to hide it. And transparency is everything today. I mean, we as a company at Lippe Taylor, sometimes I think we're too transparent, but it's something that keeps coming back to us that people love. Like anybody in the company, when we have our staff meetings, they know exactly what our billings are. They know what we're making. I didn't do that before, but I'm doing it now. And it keeps coming back for people saying they just love that the company feels so transparent. But again, what do we do? What do we do for ourselves? What do we do to make sure that we're up and running and have the resiliency and all the fortitude that we need during these difficult times?
Well, I think as we wrap up, I would say, stay human, right? We got to show our vulnerability, our empathy, but just
absolutely
our full self. And when you are going through things, I think, as you said, we used to be stoic and just would, everything's fine when it's totally not. And I think that part of that transparency is being real with your people and being more human as we go back. I think that we've all built a certain resiliency and understanding that there's point-to-point leadership. We're not going to have all the answers. And I think, I used to feel like if you didn't have all the answers, you were failing as a leader. And now it's like, how do you move people forward one step at a time, and we're all moving together? But admit, I don't have all the answers. Admit some of that, vulnerability as you're taking them through, but also give them confidence that you're leading them forward, and that even without all the answers, we're all going to be fine, and creating that safety. So I think those are things, that presence and that ability to showcase our full selves today is going to continue as we move forward, and is going to create that sense of culture. And as people join our departments or companies or agencies, right, is making them feel that that is okay. And that how they show up every day as their full selves is what you're hiring, and not just the sliver of their persona. So to me, I think that's the good that's coming out of the pandemic. And then I hope we take forward with this next generation to make the workforce a little bit more of a supportive environment that people actually want to work in, achieve success in, build their careers in, but also support each other in new ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just saying we don't have all the answers. We're all in this together. We're listening to you. We want you to give us feedback. What are you thinking? What do you think we should be doing? We, like you said earlier, we survey and we get so much out of our surveys. And then we, of course, report back to people like, what did we hear? This is what we heard, and this is what we're doing because this is what you said you wanted to hear. I just think in a culture that's recently been defined by so much fear and uncertainty, we as leaders have to inspire. We have to continue to inspire and lead, and really lead with empathy, as we talked about earlier, and purpose, and try to create a culture, as you just said, of listening, a culture of belonging. I feel like I belong to a really, really important company that has my back. And if we do that, we can transform ourselves, we can transform our people. And we're all, as long as we're all together on the journey and everybody feels that we're all together, we're in this together, and together we will get through it and we'll figure it out. We're listening to everything everyone's saying. And, I look forward to it. And I look forward to connecting with you more often, because this exchange has been so much fun. We talked a little bit about how everything was going at the office. But I think connecting even with our She-Quality group and listening to our She-Quality friends and how they're doing and what the plans are that they're putting in place. I think listening is really important. Barri, this has been fantastic. It's been great. I can't tell you, just to see your face means a lot to me, particularly, during this time. So hopefully we'll be back to work or working remotely, or having the model where, we'll come in on certain days. We have so many opportunities, and we'll all figure it out together.
Wow. Well, thanks, Maureen, for being a role model for so much of my career. It's wonderful to see you. And I wish you all the best. And I'm
Goodbye,
sure
my love.
we're going to be together in New York soon.
I hope so. We've got that dinner planned. We'll make it happen.
That's a deal.
All right. Bye.